Watch this.
From our first case to vaccines to crisis standards of care, all during a seemingly never-ending state of emergency. A trip down memory lane of 2 years of the pandemic in Idaho. A third version of a bill to enhance election security finally made it to the House floor, not without some debate and some new accusations.
But there are still going to be thousands of people in Idaho, perfectly legal voters who will be barred from registering under this statute.
What we need is an election integrity bill that's going to make people feel that we're all following the rules.
As the weather warms up, so does the possibility of wildfires. Well, now we have more resources on the way to help fight those future fires. Welcome to the third year of SARS-CoV-2 in Idaho, otherwise known as COVID-19 or the coronavirus or simply the Rona. Whatever you call it, the novel coronavirus isn't so novel anymore. Yesterday marked the milestone 2-year anniversary since COVID was confirmed in the Gem State. Since then, we have had more than 430,000 reported cases in Idaho, as well as 4,819 COVID-related deaths, as if the population of Shelley, Idaho was just wiped away. As we consider yesterday's milestone, we wanted to look back at the COVID milestones we've managed in these past 2 years.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is
COVID-19 first officially came to Idaho on Friday, March 13th, 2020.
And just this afternoon, the department was notified by our Bureau of Laboratories that we have our first positive case of novel coronavirus in a female over the age of 50 in the southwestern part of the state.
That woman had mild symptoms and was recovering at home. Despite being told the risk remained low for the general population, that day, the entire state of Idaho was put under an emergency declaration. The next day, another positive test, this time in Blaine County. Another woman with mild symptoms, recovering at home.
Well, I guess it's a minute early, but we could start.
By the following Monday, March 16th, the city of Boise, along with several other Treasure Valley cities and counties, declared a state of emergency, increasing the level of caution.
Effective Tuesday morning, public access to all city facilities except the airport will cease until further notice.
Within 10 days, on March 25th, Governor Little took Idaho to the next drastic degree of COVID.
Today, I will be issuing a statewide stay-home order for all of Idaho.
That meant places like schools, gyms, bars, theaters, restaurants, nightclubs, bowling alleys, and even playgrounds were supposed to be closed. Places like repair shops, grocery stores, gas stations, and gun shops would stay open. That stay-home order was supposed to stay in place for 3 weeks, but it lasted until May 1st, when Idaho businesses began reopening in stages. Stage 4 started that summer, June 15th. But because of the increasing waves of COVID cases, Idaho was stuck in Phase 4 through the following spring. The day after that original stay-home order was issued, March 26, 2020, we were told of Idaho's first confirmed COVID-related death. There were 3 of them, all men over the age of 60. By the end of the year, we would see more than 1,400 Idahoans die of COVID-19. On December 14th, 2020,
everything that we do in life, there's chances that we may have to take.
Idaho received its first doses of the COVID vaccine. The first to get inoculated? Doctors in eastern Idaho.
The best way to protect our population and our individual people is getting a vaccine.
Suddenly, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. However, despite that increasing vaccine availability, the Delta variant took its toll on Idaho. Crisis standards of care were announced on September 7th, 2021, for the first time ever for hospitals in North Idaho. 9 days later,
equally alarming that we're meeting records for both ICU care and just hospitalizations daily, that we're surpassing, just blasting through our records from December of 2020.
Crisis standards were expanded statewide. That lasted until late December 2021. Then that month, on December 10th, Idaho saw its first confirmed case of the Omicron variant. And here we are. That Omicron variant, while so far has proven to be highly contagious, a little more vaccine averse, overall, it has not been as deadly as previous variants. And that's the good news. And it's also had a much shorter wave. Because of that, just last week, Governor Little announced there will be an end to the state of emergency here in Idaho that he first issued 2 years ago today. or yesterday that is. He plans to lift it April 15th. Of course, that little stroll down milestone memory lane says nothing about the terminology and adjustments and debates and protests we've all had to navigate in these past 2 years as we tried to figure out on the fly the best way to keep this under some sort of control. Something that should have brought us together did a pretty good job of tearing us apart, or at least trying to. Masks and distancing, those who've recovered, those who have been vaccinated, all of it. Hard to believe, though, COVID vaccine has been available the majority of this pandemic, and still only a little more than a half of our eligible population in Idaho has been fully vaccinated against the virus.
51 ayes, 14 nays, 5 abstentions excused, the majority having voted in favor of Senate Bill 1309. Senate Bill 1309 has passed the House.
One of the most controversial bills of the session is now headed to the governor's desk. Senate Bill 1309, the Texas-style abortion bill, passed the House after a pretty short debate. This bill would ban abortions after 6 weeks. That's not all. It would also allow immediate family members, including grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, to sue the doctor who performed the abortion for a minimum of $20,000. That's the penalty. If a woman was raped, well, the rapist couldn't file a lawsuit, but relatives of the rapist could.
Abortion is not a constitutional right. This is something that we've created, and that the Supreme Court in 1973 did something that was never allowed in the first place.
No one's most intimate medical decisions should be controlled by us. I don't think the 105 Idaho legislators need to be in the exam room between a pregnant person and the doctor, and that's exactly what this bill does.
Sure, there are exceptions for rape and for medical purposes, but if that rapist happens to be a family member, they could sue as well. There was talk about if this would withstand a challenge in court. As of today, Texas's bill has withstood 3 court challenges. Opponents say it's unconstitutional, the Idaho bill, adding that most women don't know they're even pregnant at 6 weeks. Now awaits the signature of Governor Brad Little, and no word on if he will sign it, but he did last year sign a fetal heartbeat law that would ban abortions once a heartbeat is detected. That law would go into effect should Roe v. Wade be overturned. This bill, if signed and if held up in court, according to an opinion issued by the AG's office, would likely prohibit almost all abortions in Idaho. Well, third time's a charm, as they say. The third version of Representative Dorothy Moon's election laws bill was debated on the House floor this morning. Moon, who is also running for Secretary of State for this election season, told the floor Idaho needs an election integrity bill that's going to make people feel like they're following the rules. So she brought forth House Bill 761. It would restrict how a voter can verify their identity at the polls. Things like no more student IDs, no more signing affidavits, and additional paperwork needed to register on Election Day. It passed the House 47-21. But during her closing remarks, Representative Moon offered this anecdotal capstone.
There's a lot of reports of people coming from Canada that I've been hearing just after coming back from Coeur d'Alene last night that have been coming over and voting. So this just secures our elections. Election integrity is a big issue. A lot of people want to see these simple changes made.
Reports of people coming from Canada and voting in Idaho's elections? Well, that seemed like an odd thing to throw out there, so we thought we would ask about it. And we did. We asked the 3 northernmost counties, that'd be Boundary, Bonner, and Kootenai, where Representative Moon said she heard these things in Coeur d'Alene, which is in Kootenai County. Well, the Bonner County clerk told us no Canadians have tried this in his county in likely more than a decade, and that one was kind of tied up in court for a little bit and eventually figured out. All voters in Bonner County have been verified residents, Michael Rosedale said. Kootenai County said pretty much the same thing. Jim Brannon has been county clerk there since 2013. And these comments were the first he's heard regarding Canadian citizens voting in Idaho elections. In fact, he encourages any citizen with evidence to support claims of it happening to report them immediately to his office for a full review. So just to be sure, though, we asked Chad Houck, he's the state deputy secretary of state. And he told us he spoke with all 3 of those counties that we reached out to. And he said he's not aware of lots of reports, as Representative Moon made mention. He agrees Idaho's registration requirements could be tighter and simpler, but because there seems to be a need based, I should say, there doesn't seem to be a need based on rogue voters from Canada, he said. That bill now awaits the Senate. Statewide all-day kindergarten is one step closer to becoming a reality. Lawmakers in the House Education Committee voted this morning to approve a bill giving school districts the option of offering full-day kindergarten through the use of $73 million in literacy intervention money. The hope is to boost literacy skills, obviously, in young students. Right now, there are restrictions on what that money can be used for, but this bill removes those restrictions.
This provides choices for people in education to make good decisions for the kids that need it most. It expands choice and opportunities for kids in education. Whether we love what they choose or not, it's actually giving more options for parents, and it's paying for us to help our kids grow as opposed to fail.
I am not opposed to full-day kindergarten, but I think it needs to be an issue of local control. It needs to have the support from the parents, and if the parents see that there's a lack of progress in literacy in their local school district, they're the ones that need to apply pressure to the local school board and the school entities rather than have blanket funding from the state.
Okay, so if this bill advances, half of that $73 million will be based on enrollment of students in kindergarten to third grade. The other half will go towards students improving their reading skills. Districts with higher improving students will get more money. Right now, about 25% of third graders in Idaho are not able to read at the appropriate reading level. Backers say full-day kindergarten will help boost that. Opponents say the Idaho Constitution only requires spending taxpayer money on education starting in first grade. They add by giving more money to well-performing schools, inequities would deepen in underperforming schools. It passed, by the way, 9-5 out of committee. The bill has already passed the Senate, now heading to the House floor, and it will then head to the governor's desk if it passes there, where he has signaled that he will sign it into law. You know, wildfire season right around the corner, and it's pretty much something we're all familiar with here out in the West, partly because we get a lot of them, or some years we do. Also because the National Interagency Fire Center calls Boise home, so we're at least close to where a lot of the wildfires are taking place, or at least being managed. For wildfires all across the nation, we are the informational hub here in Boise. And by way of the bipartisan infrastructure law, this hub here in Boise got a little bit bigger. $8.25 billion bigger is now going toward wildfire management programs and needs. And maybe somebody who can explain a little bit better than I just tried to do. Andrew Bartline is here. You were at NIFC today, the National Interagency Fire Center, talking to federal officials about this money. Where is it going to be spent and how will it be used?
Yeah, well, we're able to speak with the Department of Interior today, and they're getting $1.5 billion themselves out of that big chunk, and they're going to spend that over the next 5 years. And they kind of break it down for us in some simple ways. They said they've already planned out where this money will be spent over those next 5 years, and it's going into 4 different areas: preparedness, fuels management, land rehabilitation, and joint fire science. That's the smallest of the 4. The first of which is one of the biggest, preparedness, and they're seeing $120 million go directly to firefighters. That's partly to make 500 seasonal positions move to a full-time, year-round job because the demand and calls for them to be working all year long, but also to increase wildland firefighter minimum wages up to $15, a new standard across the nation.
This is some of the most important public safety work, among other things, that happens in the United States. And the fact that many of these firefighters, who literally are our first responders putting their lives on the line, we're not making a living wage, at least $15 an hour, is something that I think we all agree is unacceptable. And so bringing those wages up, those salaries up, was the least we can do, and we have to build from there.
That's the U.S. Department of Interior Deputy Secretary Tommy Boudreau you just heard from. Boudreau says the department, along with FEMA and the Forest Service, will use these federal funds to create a Wildland Fire Mitigation and Management Commission. The website for this says the new group is to create some federal policy recommendations for how to best prevent, manage, suppress, and recover from wildfires, and their recommendations will be submitted to Congress for their consideration. So there is a mapped out plan that shows what they want to accomplish by each year, Brian, and by 2027, the documents from the Department of Interior say that they want to publish a long-term maintenance monitoring program and treatment strategies, like 10 million acres. They want to be able to fully understand what they need to be doing to keep these lands from burning up, how to prevent it, and then if something does happen, how to fully handle it and rehabilitate the land.
Especially the way things are changing. And I know a lot of people like to complain, well, let's not just throw a bunch of money at a problem and see if we can solve it that way. But that's pretty significant with the pay that they're paying to these firefighters, not even on par, as they said, to what it should be.
Boots on the ground is one of their biggest investments, and it's a good one.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Today is March 14th, 314 or 3.14. It's Pi Day today, the day we celebrate circles, or at least the relationship of one's circumference to its diameter. Back in 2018, the College of Idaho decided to celebrate that relationship by trying to round up a world record. They were hoping to beat a world record of longest human representation of pi digits that was set the year before on Pi Day. We were there as a collection of coyotes came together to commemorate pi. It's just after noon at the College of Idaho in Caldwell.
It's almost go time. Is everyone ready?
And the math club has called a meeting inside the J.A. Albertson Activity Center.
Stay patient. Thanks.
It's not necessarily a meeting of the minds, more of just bodies.
And you're in charge of the 50 digits in row 10.
Natasha Dachik, the club president, has organized a rather unique celebration of the foundation of geometry.
So it's a snake formation, right?
You see, she wants the coyote community to hold the record for the longest human representation of pi.
So row 1, row 2, and then I'll move on row 3.
1 year ago today, a small town in Italy set the record of pi to 520 places.
Then we saw it and we're like, all right, we're gonna beat it.
So on this 30th anniversary of Pi Day, Natasha reached out beyond her circle of friends.
Stay in order, stay in order.
Asking fellow students, staff, and faculty.
Hello.
How you doing?
You have to stay in order.
Including current and future school presidents.
We just reached 300.
To grab a t-shirt.
Stay in order.
And get in line, of sorts. To help set a world record of circles in the middle of this rectangular room. It starts with Les Tanner, number 1.
That's right.
Wearing number 3.
3.1415926535897932384.
But he can give you 21 pieces of pie.
That's it.
To number 521, the record breaker.
This is pretty good, yeah. This is the record, yep.
To the last in line, number 600.
All right.
600!
Now, all they need is a picture to prove it.
So I want everyone to pick up your stuff and just take 10 steps forward.
Pi is a mathematical constant, but these people only needed to be in place for 60 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To secure their place in the record books.
We did it! CFI community did it.
Now what?
Now go back to classes.
Brian Holmes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's over!
Idaho's News Channel 7. You know, 600 places of pie, not too bad, but also not a world record. Unfortunately, later that same day, actually I think earlier because of the time difference. Anyway, way over in Oman, on March 14th, 2018, that same day, students at the Sultan School in Oman were able to line up 1,182 people in a circle, no less, to set the Guinness World Record for longest human representation of pi. It ends in 1, by the way, that last digit. Today, we caught up with Natasha Dachik, who today is working on her PhD at the University of Michigan. She told us trying to break a world record is exhausting, but worth it because of how it brought so many people from the coyote community together. Still, missing out on that world record, a disappointment for sure, for C of I's math club, their students, and their faculty.
We found out like right before graduation, and what was cool is I got to be the graduation, like the student speaker.
Distinguished guests, faculty, families, friends, and fellow graduates, what a wonderful morning.
It was unfortunate that I had to break the sad news that way.
Although it's a downer that our final result didn't end up being an official world record, and yes, this is me breaking the news that our record was not official.
But like, it was really cool to see that sort of community and like people from all over Caldwell coming together.
Math Club was able to gather 600 people to stand together wearing memorable neon yellow, pink, and blue tie-dye shirts in order to unite for pi of all things.
And that was really fun. Like looking back, it was really cool to see on a small campus.
Well, you started out on a small campus, but now you're big time. University of Michigan, graduate studies.
I am in the climate and space sciences and engineering department, and I'm on the climate science side of research. In specific, my research is looking at soil emissions from agricultural areas. So yeah, I'm a third-year PhD student now.
Maybe not today, but do you see yourself ever getting involved in another Pi Day world record attempt at some point in your future?
I think about it all the time, to be honest. I think about just like, oh, right now I'm at the University of Michigan where we have about 60,000 students, and how easy it would be to get at least however many, 2,000, 3,000 people from all over campus, maybe like in the big house on the field, right? Line up and pi digits. And so I think about that. I'm like, I have access to these resources. Yeah, I don't know if I have like the capacity or energy as a grad student to try and plan that. I'm already like overcommitted on too many other things, but I do think about it a lot of, maybe someday I'll try again.
Someday, but not any day in the next 2 years. She's got 2 years left to get her doctorate, which she plans to do. Almost ran out of time today, but got a little moment for a couple of comments like this one from Larry. If the USA would log our forests, we need not to spend billions of dollars to protect them. Luckily, that money is included in that to protect or to harvest them. I've been hearing many reports of unicorn stampedes killing hundreds of Idahoans. Moon needs to spring into action and save us, says Ron.